Jokes from the Garden. So we are now 1 month into the winter garden season, which in a good sense means that we're 1/6 of the way done, or about 15% done with the winter already, and on our way towards the renewed summer gardens, which, by the way, I'm still fallowing outside, working to fallow all of the gardens. But about this time, 1 month into the winter garden season, it's time to take action. You give them about 1 month. Plants need about that time to adjust to the change of light and environment. A lot of factors change when you move plants into the winter garden, not only the light, but sometimes the humidity factor changes. It's much more humid in here than it is outside when they were outside. And so you give them about a month. And a lot of plants you'll find, especially geraniums, this is not a good example here because this is doing well here, but let me take you over here to this geranium. This used to be a very lush and huge geranium, and you can see most of the leaves have died off, and that is very common when you move geraniums into the house. It'll look like they're dying, but they're not. They're just sometimes the change of environment actually triggers a dormancy, and so these geraniums go into a temporary dormancy where they lose all their leaves, but you can see they're getting a lot of new leaves too. They come back with a lot of new leaves then after they lose all their old leaves. So don't panic. If you've moved your geraniums into the house and they look like they're dying, they will come back if you just keep taking care of them, giving them the water and the light that they need. All of these plants in here have been fed with a long-term fertilizer, which is a 6-month fertilizer, so I don't have to worry about feeding any of the plants. The drawback of that is I can't control their growth either through the feeding and not feeding of the plants, and so they're going to grow rapidly whether I want them to or not. And so this is the time to take action, and so I will begin to process each one of these pots. Now I've already got the light regulated, so they're all getting the amount of light they need. I've got the watering schedule down, packed, so each one of these pots gets watered once every 4 days. I've divided the garden room up into four areas, and each gets watered once every 4 days. And I've got the fertilizing done because I used a long-term fertilizer. But I have to handle 2 other factors that have to be handled in the winter garden, and one of those is pests. I've already had a run-in with some pests, and unfortunately I'm catching them early this year, and I'm not letting them get out of hand. So back here on this Diplodania, I was watering it one day, and notice, especially on the, you'll notice this, especially look for them on the new vines that come out of like a Diplodania or a Mandevilla vine. That's where the aphids, and this was covered with aphids, and fortunately they are a certain breed of aphids known as oleander aphids, and they're easy to spot because they're bright orange. Nature didn't do them any favor by making them that color, but I was able to spot them, and they were literally, these vines here were just literally covered. They looked like they were orange because they were covered with them, and I sprayed it. And when I do that, I usually move a plant into isolation so that the pests cannot spread to other plants for about a week, just to make sure that I've gotten them on. I did a pretty thorough job on this, so it only took 1 spraying, and they were done for. But I keep my eyes open all the time for pests, and what I use generally is I'll use a little, just a touch of this Dawn dishwashing detergent in regular water, but I also put in a spray of baby oil, and the baby oil ensures that the soap stays on the leaf. It adheres to the leaf, so it has a long-term effect for the pests, so they can't reproduce and come back on me. And then I just put that into a regular, you always need, if you're going to do indoor gardening, you always need a good spray bottle. Don't get one of those cheap things from Walmart. This one cost me, I think, about maybe 10 or 15 bucks, but it's a good bottle. It's a good quality bottle. And So I put the soap and the oil in there with some water and spray the plants thoroughly, and usually that takes care of the pest pretty thoroughly. Another pest I encountered was the black variety of aphids that were just last night. Last night, these buds, almost the stems looked black. You would think that it had stem rot, because all the stems on all these, see how it's just the food. This is what the long-term fertilizer is doing. You can see just how many buds I got on that rose bush, and every one of them was just black, the vine right up to the bud, which is where you'll usually find that aphids are easy to deal with, because they do usually crawl to the top of the plant where they're easily visible. So I sprayed them, and you can see this morning they are clean as a whistle. I've searched them. I haven't found a single aphid on them, and so I think they'll be safe. But I caught those just in time, because those aphids, as many as there were, would have most definitely killed off these very lush, what are now very lush miniature rose bushes. If I can even pull it out from the other plants, you can get an idea of how lush these are. It's a very lush bush, and we want to keep it that way. So we got to watch out for those pests. Now, the other thing I do for pests that really is effective in controlling, especially flying insects, because typically about next month or January, I'll start having an infestation and fighting, at least in the last couple of years, I've had problems with what's called fruit or fungus gnats. Some people call them fruit flies, and also white flies. White flies are the worst. I hope I don't have to see a single white fly in my garden this year. But how I'm dealing with that this year is, last year I kept these lights on 24 hours a day. And that isn't even necessary, because darkness is as essential to the healthy growth of plants and their development as light is. So they do need some periods of darkness anyway. So it's not necessary to keep a light over a plant at all times, 24 hours a day. And the benefit of turning them off each night, and they're all connected. I don't have to go around and turn each individual one off, because there's over 100 lights, individual lights in this room. But I've got them all connected to circuit boards like this. So it's just a switch. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 switches I turn on. And that turns on all the lights in the room all together. So when I turn off the lights, the benefit of that is not only am I saving electricity, but I have 2 bug zappers indoors here. They're in use. One's over here and one's is over here, and those are on dedicated lines directly into the outlet. So when I turn off the circuit boards, those don't go off. And so those are the only lights that remain in the dark night to attract flying insects such as white flies and fungus gnats. And I think they do their part to keep the populations down. Now, I haven't seen a single one. We've seen a few upstairs, but that might be from other sources. But I haven't seen a single one in the garden this year. And usually you'll see them up here. They'll land on the white ceiling, or on the light fixtures. You'll see them up in the light fixtures. And I've looked, I keep a close eye on these things, I monitor it, and I haven't seen a single one yet this year. And this is about the time that they start showing up. So I must be doing something right. So the pests are definitely a factor that needs to be controlled in the winter garden, because if you let them get out of control, fungus gnats or white flies can literally decimate this whole room in a matter of a few weeks if they're not kept under control. And so I keep my plants nice and clean. But the other factor I have to control now, and I'll start working on this today, now that we're exactly 1 month into the winter season, is you can see this looks very different from when I first moved these plants indoors. It looks much more crowded. It looks like I've been picking up plants, but I haven't. It's just that the plants are happy in here and they've been growing. And as they grow, they get bigger, and then that sort of displaces them a little bit. Look at these cannas. Initially, they were shorter than this. You can see they're towering over the lights now, where they're not getting light. The elephant ear is going substantially bigger. So those will probably have to be moved, and that's what I how I have to that's what I have to do as I process each of these pots now. And it takes me about, I'll do about between 5 and 10 pots a day, and it takes me about 2 months to do the whole garden room, and then I'll start the process over again, which is about the time that it'll be needed to start it over again. But as I process these pots, you know, what I'll do is I'll loosen up the soil, because every time you water a plant in a pot, you're compacting the soil. The water automatically compacts the soil, and so you want to keep that soil loose for healthy roots. And so I take usually a gutter nail I use, or a spike or something, and I just use it to loosen up the soil around the roots. I'll pull off all the dead leaves. I'll trim it back if necessary, because some of these things get way out of control. That coffee vine right back there tends to really get rambunctious, and you can see it's already wrapping itself around the wires of the lights. So not only will I, you know, groom the plant and make sure it's healthy, pull off the leaves, dead leaves and stuff, but I will also literally reposition every plant in the room so that it's got maximum light and availability based on the size of the plant. That Arabian jasmine back there, you can see it. This is the fertilizer I used. All those are buds. Each one, just a single flower from one of those buds, will fill this room with such an aroma. You'll be able to smell it the minute you come down the stairs. So with all those blooming at once, it's going to be quite a show for your nose, so to speak. But you can see a lot of these plants I know that the valerian back there, that's valerian. It's an herb used to make many kind of medications, and it does tend to get crazy and out of control. The China doll plant here, Ratamachera, tends to get big sometimes, and that definitely needs, because it's top, as you can see, the leaves are all on the top, and so it needs to have access to light. Now right now it's in a perfect place, so I might not move it for the time being. But one thing that really concerns me is vines. Vines really tend to, and you can see this one, sweet potato vines especially, this one has already rooted itself, I think, in other pots. It's way back in there now. It started out just here, simple little innocent vine, and now it's way back in there, all the way back under there. You can see it. I think it goes all the way back to the back of the table there. And so those need to be kept under control, because they really can get out of control and cause a big mess. It's very difficult to water when you can't see the pot underneath the plant. So you don't know where to pour the water exactly, and you're not sure if it's going into the pot or onto the table. Look at this money plant. When I brought this money plant in, it just had these dark green leaves, is all the leaves it had. And all these new green leaves. This is a happy plant right here. This money plant is very happy here. In fact, everything on this table is pretty happy, to tell you the truth. It's just all growing so well. Over here on this table, you can see that hydrangea had a bloom on it when I moved it in. That has bloomed since, and now it's got 2 more blooms coming out there. So it's really healthy. This I might want to move first, and I want to groom it, because you see there's grass growing up here, and you don't want the grass, because the grass is going to take over some of the nutrients out of the pot and takes over generally. So, but this is Lava oxalis. You see the sweet potato vine is encroaching upon it, so it needs to be moved where it can be free to just be. This is sweet basil right there. It's doing good. And then some things will be done, like this back there in that corner is a chrysanthemum that was in full bloom when I moved it in. Looks like it's just about done blooming. It's got a lot of new green leaves on it, which are healthy. That's good, because it's getting ready for the next bloom, which probably won't happen till the end of next summer. But I'll move that to where it has access. So it's all a matter of judging whether the plants are best where they're kept where they are, or whether it's in their interest to move them. These Dusty Millers, which I love, absolutely love, are very healthy and they seem to be doing well there. They also look very good with the variegated euonymus and the anthurium and this very ferny looking artemisia, which actually is Cola artemisia. So artemisias have different flavors, aromas if you will. I have one that smells like sweet apple, but this one is called a Cola artemisia because when you spray it with water, which I do every time they get water, these pots get watered, they get sprayed with a sprayer as well. The mist is good for them, and of course the orchids get sprayed every single day because they need it. They're bromeliads. But this smells just like, I mean, exactly. You don't even have to use your imagination. This smells exactly like Coca-Cola. Whenever you spray it or smell it, I'm smelling it right now, and it smells out loud like Coca-Cola. That's why it's called a Cola artemisia. The lamb's ear are starting to get big. They really suffered over the summer for some reason, which I don't understand why, because they generally like full sun, and I put them in full sun, and I don't know what the issue was. Got some these petunias coming back there nicely. So that's what I'll start doing today. Like I said, 5 or 10 pots a day. This is fine. I just repotted this when I moved it in, so that's fine. But here's something that's really growing out of control. This Asparagus sprengeri growing everywhere. And there's another sweet potato vine. You can see how they can get really out of control. And then what they'll do is they'll root in those other pots, and it becomes a big problem when you come to move them. You know, you just can't. But you can see those cannas definitely need to be moved down to the floor or somewhere lower where they can be under the lights, not towering above them. That's in a good spot. The Alternifera. The orchid is still blooming. So it's Autumn Celosia. Although these look very poor on this, so this might be done actually. When I process that, we'll have to take a look at that, closer look at it. Here's a sunflower I rescued from out in the yard. It's just starting to bloom. And a few other things I brought in from the gardens as I'm fallowing them. That's a Marguerite daisy right there, and there's some bachelor button. They look pretty poor right now because they just got transplanted, but they'll come back. Here the plumbago is just starting to bloom. Plumbago goes through seasons. It'll probably go through 2 or 3 seasons of blooming, and then it stops blooming, and then it'll start blooming again. And all these will turn out to be like that. They're buds for the blooms, so it's going to get a lot of blooms on it here. I love the nautical look of this aloe. I don't know why it grew this way or how it grew this way, but that is really classic. Just the nautical appearance of that aloe is beautiful. That's a rabbit's foot fern down there. I got the cat palms here. The Dracaena is very, very happy this year. Look at it just growing up there, and I've got another one over here that's not doing quite so well, but it's doing okay. So that's what I'll start doing today. This is where the real work of the garden starts. I've been able to sit on my laurels pretty much for the last month while they adjust to being in the winter garden. Here's vines. I got to be very careful with it. Look at how these were just like a few leaves in a pot when I moved them in, and they have grown all the way up the string to the curtain rod. This one here, actually that one's coming from over there. That one over there is Painted Lady Runner Bean. It gets an orange and white flower. This one is Moonflower, and it can grow to be quite large, so I don't know exactly how I'm going to deal with that. This was doing poorly, so I moved this early because this was over here and it's poor light, so I moved it over here into the full light in front of the doors where the sunlight is. And generally wax begonias don't need a lot of light, but it needs a little bit extra help, I think, so I moved it over here. Proud of this little zinnia that bloomed in my winter garden. It was a little seedling, and I moved it in. It came to full bloom. That Tithonia, or Mexican sunflower, is doing very well, as is the Vinca. Bloom and full bloom, and of course I've shown you the rose bushes, which are incredible. Over here, these coleus are, this is another thing that gets really, really big and out of control, is coleus. And so what I'll do, you see it's blooming now, these are the blooms, is I'll pinch these off before they go to seed. I'll pinch them off to keep it relatively small and in control. Here's a mandevilla vine, which can get out of control. Better jasmine. Okay. And that will be the Boston fern. That was given to me by my sister-in-law. I'll keep that safe over the winter. And these big plants back here, they can get really out of control too. They're a little bit more hard to manage, but I do. I'll pull each one of those out and take care of them. That avocado tree is doing really well. Of course, the fiddle leaf fig back in the back is doing well. And it looks like this is all new leaves on the calamundan. I'm just waiting for that or the lemon tree to bloom for me. I haven't been able to get it to bloom yet. But I did get coffee beans on the coffee tree this year, which was a great surprise. Here's one. They're all over the tree, actually. Coffee beans, and this smoke tree was almost bare, and now it's got all new leaves on it. That false shamrock in full bloom. The gold dust plant, or Acuba, is doing very well. This is doing poorly. I don't know why, so I'll have to assess that when I broom it. But all these leaves are dying off, and I have to figure out why. And this is my crepe myrtle, and it's getting all new leaves on it. It was completely bare in dormancy when I brought it in, and now it's getting all new leaves. And it will actually bloom before the end of the winter season for me. That's Confederate jasmine. There's my papaya trees, elephant bush. I've got some more coffee Arabica, Cafe Arabica trees back in there, doing very well. So that's what I'll be doing with the winter garden this year.